But yeah, how are you doing? I hope you're doing great.
Yeah, it's been a really motivational week since some months ago, since I go into crypto art. I never lost my passion, but since I am in this new ecosystem, my work has a lot of more sense because I was always doing this kind of digital artworks and GIFs and looks and thinking about internet as the new street. So I'm working a lot with the street art too, and I have a lot of works, but I didn't have the streets. And now I'm looking into crypto art and crypto boxes and Decentraland, and I have a lot of plans that were being thought during, I don't know, maybe 7 years ago. So I have a lot of work already done to play with. So it's been really motivational, this change into crypto art, really.
I'm really glad to hear that. I'm really glad to hear you transitioning to this space and that you're enjoying it a lot. And I'm actually really, really glad to finally have you on stream today. So basically, Hunter connected us. And he told me that you've been creating GIFs since 2014 and have millions of views on GIFI. And so shout out to you, Hunter. You just recently started minting on the blockchain and seems to have massive world-class potential. So clearly, you have some very great fans and supporters out there. And so, yeah, it's just a pleasure having you here for this Fireside Chat.
No,
yeah, sorry.
Keep on, sorry.
Yeah, no, so it's just a pleasure having you here. And just as a recap, the Fireside Chat is a platform where we talk about anything and everything crypto art. It's very fluid. It doesn't really have much structure, but I think that's just the beauty of it. And so, yeah. Al Crego is a Spanish photographer and designer. He's photographed murals around the world and transforms them into animations through digital processing. The murals that he chooses are converted into GIFs and has a commonality in where they convey a critical messages, on contemporary society and how difficult it is to achieve connections between people. Is there anything that you'd like to add to that, or kind of make like a small introduction about yourself?
So it's me now. I don't know how many people is now on stream, so I'm quite lost now.
Oh, no worries at all. I think you can just maybe start with a brief, introduction about yourself and perhaps how you got into this space.
Yeah, I can, but it's sort of difficult for me because despite I work a lot, I begin doing it with street art. I never give up working with street artists, and I am always working as helping curating some street art festival here in Spain. But nowadays, I'm more focused about only GIF format, not thinking only about the street art. So yeah, it was the beginning because back in the 2014, more or less, since 2010, there was a boom about the street art. A lot of thanks or due to Bansky was the reason. And I was working as a photographer and videographer as a standard normal, for photography of concerts and this kind of little works. So I was studying about how to do something new using old the stuff, because I was feeling that since the 90s until 2010, there was such a huge change in everything, in our society, in philosophy, in politics, and art. So in this huge jump, I feel that we were forgetting something. Because can I explain a little metaphor I have to explain that?
Of course.
I was thinking about that. For example, about painting, we were doing painting since the caves, since the first Cro-Magnons drew the first sketches in rock, and then it becomes to go outside the cave, and then we began to during a lot of years inside churches. Then painting still was there until now, until I don't know when the first photography was about 1815, I think. Until this, painting was ruling the art of the world, and mostly still arts like sculpture, pottery, and this kind of works. And then photography appears and broke everything, because if painting was about capturing the world, photography did it instantly. There was about thousands of years of painting, 100 or 150 for photography, and then video appears. And then video appears a lot of years ago, but the normal people, we begin to use no more than 20 years. So it's crazy because video suddenly becomes normal, and in this jump from video to picture was GIF in the middle. And I think that it was forgotten in this high jump from styles. So I never used social networks because I was really aware of them. I study them, but I don't use them. The reason I don't use this is because I study them. And I was looking all this change from outside, from people going to Facebook, then to Instagram, then to YouTube and Twitch, and I'm seeing that. So I think I was a step back to have a better perspective for what's going on internet. And now, well, this was the summarizing a lot my work, but I don't know how to explain nowadays. So I'm doing this kind of works, giving an example that we can do something new using all the stuff. And it's happening again with painting. A lot of painters are now going to crypto because they understand that if they do a paint, the first thing they do after finish the painting is to take a picture, and they put a picture on social networks. So is this piece digital or is analogical? So I try to jump this step between analogical to digital. So I directly build, think and finish my work in digital, but with the idea to be seen in reality too. With augmented reality, you can see a lot of my street art animations. So I am doing the opposite wave, I think.
And I think that is fascinating. I feel like I love, the mural work that you were doing before because, for prep for this interview, I was, watching some of the, I was looking at some of the interviews that you've done even with Vice and things like that before, which is fascinating. And, now the work that you do is still so amazing. I'm so captivated by it. And especially there was this piece where I'm going to send a link to the stream chat right now, but it's of this, of these people just walking, and it's fascinating because and how you made that transition and kind of where you draw that inspiration from, if you don't mind me asking.
No, this a classical question. I never know how to replay because I don't have an iconic artist I follow. I used to say that my inspirations come from words, just for words, because I read a lot of philosophy and I love the concept that words are the most human tool we have, because with words we create words. If there is something that has no word, it's because we don't understand it. So my inspiration used to be about looking in the street at the people and random conversations that you hear only little words from somebody, and then from books, because books, when you write books, you have the whole idea, but you don't have image nor sound to understand that, and sometimes the image conditionates a lot the idea of a word. So I think first in words, I write a lot of little quotes. So I choose one of my quotes and translate into an image in my mind, and then I look for the tools to create this image, not the opposite way, because I have friends and I know this way that some people create something and then they put the title, and for me it's not really art, because for me the art is the opposite way, that you have an idea and you have to look for the tools you need to create it. And this is the reason I stick in my guns with the picture and photography. I use a little 3D, but for me 3D, if I did my whole work in 3D, I think that from my point of view that wouldn't be much surprising, because when you see 3D, you already know that it's fake in the sense of it's digitally, everything is digital. But if you work with picture and video, because in people's mind, picture and video are more real, because we capture this reality. And if you hack this reality, this image, people used to get surprised because this is a picture, this is a photo, this is a GIF, or what is this? And a lot of people since years ago is telling me that my work is not GIFs, are videos. and it's not. There are GIFs, but previously are videos. So I think it's this midpoint we are living now between analogic art and digital art and 3D art. I mean, strictly digital art. So about inspirations, I don't know. Every day I see a lot of people that inspires me, but I don't inspire in artists really. It's more in the normal life, and sometimes the more stupid guy you find in the street can say the best word that make you think about something. But when I hear famous artists or famous philosophers, because they are famous, they don't dare to go further. I don't know. So I like a lot the subversive philosophers and people that is always trying to break things, to build more, not to destroy. I hate the artists that only destroy and criticize with no background. If you destroy something, is to create new rules, I think, and these rules is going to be break again. This is how isms born. When an artist broke something and then you explain how you do it, you create an ism. I hate isms because they limit a lot, but are good because we have to learn from them to know how to break the next ones. I don't know. It's more about philosophy than art, because it's hard for me to differ life, philosophy, art, and this kind is everything is everything.
I think that the answer is perfect, and I think it's a beautiful answer as well. I agree with everything you said there. And one thing I wanted to ask you is, with philosophy and things like that, what books do you kind of recommend, or what are some of the books that you drew most inspiration from with the quotes? Since you start with a quote and then you got that inspiration and you try to kind of recreate it, art. So could you give us some examples, perhaps?
Sure. Thank you for this question, because there is one book, and there are three really that changed my mind, but there is one, and it's not for the book itself, because it was the way I get it. I remember one day I was watching the classical picture of the Mona Lisa in the Louvre, where everybody the picture is surrounded by a lot of people, and I never was there, and I don't really want to go because there is a lot of people. So watching this picture, I think. I remember thought, I don't know, how can I explain in English? I don't want to paint like this guy, like Da Vinci. I want to know why people is looking at this picture. So I think I must read about this guy. We all know the Da Vinci work. It's okay. And we all know some book about Da Vinci is Da Vinci Code, but Da Vinci's Code is not a book written by Da Vinci. So I look a little, and I found a book that is called Aphorisms, because there are little quotes. So at first it's like, what the fuck is the way I wrote too. And there was back in the days, in 2015 more than less, that I was really sad, because I was trying a lot of things with photography and trying a lot of techniques, but my work was irrelevant. So I began to read this book, and the first sentence, the first quote, the very, very first quote in this book, if people can download it, it's for free. You can read something like, from Da Vinci's words, he wrote something like, he was feeling like the last guy who arrives at the marketplace when everybody goes, and now he has to invent something from the rest of the other people. So I thought, if this guy thought that in 500 years ago, what is wrong with me if I have a lot of more of technology that he doesn't? So this was a break for me. So I began to read this book. It's Da Vinci Aphorisms, and it's for free to download. And inside is a lot of. It's it's perfect, because you don't see the Da Vinci's artwork. You see his mind. You see how he understands the world, and it's funny because there is the sketchbook of Leonardo da Vinci. And I used to say in a funny way, but not in a really funny way, that he watched the world in GIFs, because he drew a lot of sequence of birds flying, of water, of fractals. The word fractal that didn't exist, but he saw that. And his machines he designed, he always did some pictures doing a sequence. So he was doing GIFs. He didn't know, but it's. And this was the book, one of them that crossed my mind, and then another two that is really, they are really, really small books, but they are really deep books. And one of them is The Art of War of Sun Tzu. It's a philosophical. You all should know about this book, I think. It's a really old book, a Japanese, about how to understand war, not as a way of killing, because war is part of human species. So how to deal with it and how to understand your inner war to be in peace. I always say that I am in peace with my own war with art and my problems. I am in peace with it because this book taught me how to be in peace inside a war. And then the other one is another Oriental book. Is the Tao Te Ching. It's a really ancient book. It's a really small book, 60 pages, no more, and it's about 3,000 years, more or less. And this book I like it because despite I don't like religions as institutions, I like the religiosity side of humans and the shamanism and all these kind of symbols. I love that because studying that from the ancient times, you understand a lot how world works today. And this book is nice because it's not a religion. It's more a philosophic way of understanding life because there is no idol to pray. It's more the Tao is the way they symbolize this God. It's not God. It's more an entity. It's the universe. How you can extrapolate where you want in your art, in sports, in music. So for me, these three books, among a lot of course of more books because books are nice. These three were the ones that break my mind 5 years ago and make me understand what I was trying to do with GIF and photo and video and 3D internet and blah, blah, blah. So I will recommend Da Vinci. I like his paintings, okay, but his book is better than all his work, I think, because you are reading his mind.
Yeah, and I think the audience are really going to, love reading these books because maybe they could draw some inspiration from their work as well. And of course, Art of War, I think a lot of people, even listening, have already read it, and so perhaps or already have that physical book. So if you guys want to try it out, you guys can pick a phrase or pick a quote, see which one speaks the most to you, and see what you can create.
Yeah.
I agree with you when you talked about religion and you spoke on that. I think it's a beautiful thing of not knowing. I guess I think that part of that's kind of being human, right? And I feel like it's really human to want to always have an answer for something. So when you kind of break away from that, that's the beauty of it because it kind of, goes against your primal instincts. And I feel like that kind of is, expressed in your art, in a way. I also wanted, and I also wanted to kind of know, with your mural art, because I'm seeing this and I think it's brilliant. Would you ever kind of want to make this into an NFT, or would you kind of just want to say, that was what I did in the past, that was a stage, now I'm moving into a next phase?
But you mean about street art ones?
Correct.
I am preparing some of them to mind, but of course, above all, I always respect the street artists because I always say that if you like my work of animation, it's because you like their work. It's like this, because if the wall is shit, first I don't animate because I don't will do, and then I can do better. I can't take better work from a mediocre work. So I try to select the good ones, and these days I stopped doing that since 2 years ago because a lot of people approach me and they want me to animate their walls for free. When I spend more time animating it than they spend painting it, so I stopped. I work with a couple of them too that they don't understand really good my work and they stole my ideas and so on. But lately, I was writing a lot about digital public space, not only public space, because I am always with people of street art, and there are a lot of people of street art that are interested in digital public space. I always say, for example, that Wikipedia is a digital public space, so we can play in this space. And now in crypto art, we have for example, in crypto voxels, there is buildings, so there are streets, and if there are streets, we can place their stuff, or we can play that. So I am animating about 5 or 6 walls these days, and I am preparing my text. It's like a paper where I explain my point of view about digital public space, about the authority of a work, and the text was written just before I got into crypto art, but I don't want to change and adapt to crypto art view because I think it will be nice to see the previous step just before getting into crypto art with this idea. So I will publish that. I don't know when because it's a hard work and I have a lot of parallel projects. But the idea is is meant that some street art works and more because I am. How can I say? I've already done something on digital public space and some places on the internet. I didn't say nothing already. They are working already, but nobody found. When the time arrives, I will say something or give a clue to see if people want to search something on the streets of the web. It will be a nice game. So it's like the new streets is now we can play here. But yes, I am about to publish some of them too.
Amazing, and I can't wait to see them. One question that I wanted to ask you when I was looking at your pieces, because they kind of have this sense of, it has this ironic twist on life and kind of current social issues. Do you think art has to be controversial to be great?
Not necessary, but there is ways. There are out of ways to be controversial. I think you can be controversial in the easy way and show something or explain something really explicit. But there is a nice woman. It's from Belgium. It's a poet that she said one words. I am with them. This the good art must suggest. The bad art shows. So when you are controversial, you are doing the work done. So in the viewer mind, there is no work. But if you do some controversial piece, but with a poetry approach, where you have to do the spectator to sit for a moment and understand what is he seeing, it's like when it happened to you for sure. When you are reading a book, for example, I don't know, and a book from 100 years ago, you don't have the author next to you to ask him what is going in the book. And when you understand the book by yourself, you transcend. You feel elevated because you understand more point of view. For me, this is the point of art. If you do a easy work of art where the spectator has to do nothing, it's okay. I'm not hating this kind of art, and I respect and I understand this kind of art. I do too, this kind of art. I create that. But when I have a deep idea, I think that some point of spicy or some point of I can't explain. Something that in the viewer not annoying or controversial, but something that click his mind to stop it. And I think that in this case that you are telling me, GIF format is the perfect format because it's a visual mantra. It's a repetition, and we the humans, we learn by repetition. So when you get stuck in a loop, your eyes are seeing one thing, but your mind is working. And when you understand the piece, this piece, you will remember this piece forever. But there are a lot of controversial. You can put a Jesus Christ with a lot of blood and put below a Satan rule or something like this, and this is good. It's okay. It's a good impact, but you will forget that, I think, because nothing happened in your brain. I think is my point of view, as happened to me watching since I am a child. I can always remember the book Matilda. The Roald Dahl Matilda. I think I read this book with 10 years or 12 years, and since today, I am 33. For me, it's a reference. This book made something in my mind that made me understand the world in a different way. So I think the art I try to do is this kind of art. I have a little quote that it maybe sounds crazy, but for me is I aspire to inspire. If I succeed in somebody watching my art, make something click in their brain to begin to make art, to understand life in another kind of point of view, I'm done. For me, it's okay. If a lot of people wrote me in Tumblr, oh, thank you for your work. Now I am digging this in GIF art. I am doing this research in the university. Blah, blah. For me, it's the best when somebody click. I'm looking in the chat. Matilda, this is my boss. This girl.
I love that, Matilda had that kind of input on you because, it's a book that everyone loves, but everyone has a different take on it. And this was, how it manifested for you. I'm looking at one of the pieces that you did. It's The Vanish of Vanity. And you're right. I think, and I've started getting more into gifts now. And I love that now it's kind of entered this crypto space and it's taken a whole new different meaning. It's manifested, it's transcended into something else. And it's kind of, like you said, right? Your mind is kind of focusing on one thing at a time, and it's captivating. It leaves an impression. And it's really tough. It's hard making a loop or a perfect loop with gifts. And so I understand, like it takes a lot to master that. So
this is the
what
point.
Is your kind of, so how do you kind of do it? What is the trick, I guess, is my question.
Yeah, this is a real deep conversation. We can talk with this for hours, but because a lot of people and myself, because I have to struggle with this fight, how to get a perfect loop. For example, as first sentence, when you are, for example, recording a video for a loop, for a GIF, I usually make a laugh because I told my friends, no, you have to pause for a loop. You have to pause for a GIF, like a repetitive motion. So it's in this kind of videos. But then when you are working in digital, you have to read motion. We don't only read books. We read light, we read gestures, we read emotion. So we have to read motion now. And this is the point. It's not annoying for me, but I don't really like at all when, for example, a GIF is ping pong, when it goes into a point to a B and then come back again. Because for me, this is unreal. We don't move. Nobody moves like this. And for me, from my point of view, and a lot of people hate me, oh, you're crazy. This is the easy way of finish a GIF. And for me, it's like when I'm doing a song or a beat and you finish the song in the middle and the other middle is halfway. So for me, it's not GIF art. For me, it's a GIF. It's a GIF because GIF is a format, but it's not GIF art because it's not getting this visual mantra, blah, blah, blah. And then another point is the when you do for example, I'm watching this in the chat, and this kind of GIFs that I call auto-tune GIFs. This is a really important point for me because I always say that one thing is give motion to a picture, and another thing is create a picture, a piece of motion. For me, this kind of auto-tune GIFs is like you do a picture, and when you finish the picture, you begin to think how to move it. And for me, it's not the way, because since the beginning, I am thinking in a motion piece. So since the beginning, I have to think how I have to loop this. And this is an issue I have, in a funny issue when I work with people or with the street artists. We are working on an idea. Okay, we have to do that. Did bears appear and take this back and go out? And I told them, yeah, they have to go out. But how can you loop it? And they say, okay, I have to loop it. You understand? Because thinking of idea is good. We are thinking in ideas. But how to loop them is the magic. And when you find this point of loop, everything connects. For example, I try a lot of things with this, and I can give you an example. I think it's really visual and it's easy to understand. Imagine you have, for example, 10 boys dancing. Okay, there are 10 boys dancing, and they are all synchronized, perfectly dancing. So there is seamless loop because they are all in the same rhythm. But if one of them begins to fail, you will detect this boy out of the beat. So you will find that the loop is not perfect. But then imagine that the second one begins to dance badly, and it gets a point that the all of them, the 10 of them, are dancing badly. A new loop generates, because this, I used to say that the fractal hides the mistake. Is like, for example, a waterfall is easy to loop because there is a fractal. And human mind is more used to detect fails in anatomic movements. For example, if you do a guy walking and there is a frame that is not working good, your brain will detect instantly. But if you are looping a fire, a water, fractal stuff or organic stuff, is harder to find the loop. So sometimes instead of beginning a loop, imagine you have 4 elements in a loop. instead of beginning them, all of them at the 0 point, beginning them in different points of timeline and then loop it. Because you will have 4 of 6 elements that are looping, but each one at its time. So it's harder to find where the loops connects. You understand something?
How much, right? Because I, from what you're saying, right, I can understand that, you know, a lot of how people's brain works is involved in your work. You have to think about that, you know, how do people process this? You know, if someone sees this, are they going to notice that? You know, and even like watching your GIF, your piece of art just now with, you know, the vanishing point of vanity. I was watching it and I didn't know when it was going to end, but then it just kept changing. I thought it was the same image, but then over time I just saw a cat fall through the ground and I was like, I didn't see that earlier, but you know, I thought it was just the same image looping, and that was just fascinating, you know.
This is nice that if you told, because it's the point that I want to achieve, that you, when somebody looks this kind of work, that he lost the sense of space, that you think this is an eternal loop. And I think, from my point of view, I think this is like meditating, because this is why I call visual mantras, because a mantra is a piece of sound that repeats itself to get you in a loop. So in this one, in the vanish of vanity, this was the idea. And can I ask you if happened to you that when you look for the 10 seconds or 15 seconds into the piece, and then you look another place, it generates a optical illusion?
Yes, 100%. And I was so tripped out because it was so trippy. I was like, what is going on? Is this me? Or
no, this is nice because it wasn't prepared. I was doing it, and one night I was looking at it and looking how I have to fix it, blah, blah, blah. And when I took my eyes out to get for a coffee, all my room was whoa. So I think, okay, let's wait. As always, mistakes generates ideas. I love this kind of works when you don't know how clearly how to do it, so you have to struggle with that. And in this struggle, a lot of times appears 10 more pieces, because one idea gives you another idea. So thank you for saying that a lot.
I think you expressed that perfectly. And so, you know, I also wanted to ask you on, you know, your process on photography as well, in collaging and finding the right angle, the right vanishing point, the right photos, and how you combine them together. Because I'd imagine the process itself is pretty laboring as well, because you have to find the right places, abandoned. I think you took a photo in an abandoned school or a factory, I think.
Yeah.
So, how do you do it?
This was during a residence I was in Marseille, and this place was brutal because it was a really, really huge, I don't know how to say it in English. It's a place where the city goes with second or third hand stuff and leave them for some money. But it is, I don't know, 80 years old. So I was living there for 4 months and it was crazy. And about the photography, it's like I do a lot of panoramic pictures. First of all, because when I was younger, I don't have money, so I don't have a fisheye, and I never liked the way of looking narrow looking. So when I sit in some place, I watch almost 180 degrees. So I try to capture this, and then when I begin to street art, I begin also to do panoramic pictures, huge panoramic pictures, sometimes about 50 or 60 pictures, to have more quality in order to have more quality in Photoshop, to take all the layers and so on. And in this kind of the vanish of vanity, it was the same, because the place was so nice, and I have a lot of pictures of details and little things. But I think that when I was there, the visual impact of looking that was it was so big. So I did. In Vanish of Vanity, if you focus, there is one picture and then there is another one, and they are intercalated because one picture was from the entrance corridor and the other one was from the out corridor. So I took a panoramic, a lot of them from. You understand? I was in the corridor, take one picture. I walked 10 foot, for example, another 20 pictures, and then come back in the out corridor. I do the same. So in the video, I mix them. One is from the entrance, another is from the data. So your brain doesn't understand if it's going out or inside. But it is. I work a lot of photography because it's my. I always say it's my prime matter is light, and I thought that because I learned a lot of photography and I try to go to use some 3D, but at the end is that I feel more comfortable about photography because if I need I don't know a stone, I can do it in 3D, but the 3D purpose is to emulate reality. So I go to the street and I take a picture of a stone, and if I need that the stone moves, I can do a hyperlapse or a time lapse moving it, so I can take this motion I need to use as a 3D element, but it's not 3D because I can't. You understand? Because I use photography at first when I was younger as a final product. When you go for a concert and they ask you for photo, and this is the final product. But nowadays I do that when I work with street art. I try to do the best picture I can for the mural, for the artist, and so on. But then in my own work, I use photography as an ingredient for another final product. I always say the parallelism with cooking. I don't used to cook too much, but I have friends do, and I learn a lot with this. It's like when I go to take pictures, it's like I go to the forest for the ingredients for my plate. So when I arrive home, I download the picture in my computer, I see my ingredients, and then I go to Photoshop or After Effects to cook, to take the final dish that is the gift. So it's like mixing photography with video, 3D or painting if you need. So I focus mostly on pictures, yeah.
I love
Maybe
that you.
maybe I didn't explain what you asked me, but sorry.
No, I think you were spot on, and I think I love that your kind of depiction of, or your explanation for creating and sourcing art is cooking. You describe it as cooking. You get your ingredients and you go home, you get ready and plate, and you start chopping. Basically, you add some salt, you add some pepper, whatever it is, but
Yeah,
it's cooking.
Sorry, when you are doing it in After Effects for rendering, and you have to wait for the render to watch it. It's like when you are doing a soup and you have to wait to the boiling water and you try it and it needs salt. And sometimes it's the same. You are doing a GIF and frame by frame is working. But when you look it in motion, you say, okay, it's nice, but in this frame, this water it covers the face of the I don't know. So you have to put more salt or take it and sometimes when you think it's nice and you finally render it, so you serve the dish and you sit to it really happy, it's not good because sometimes, I don't know, maybe you forgot about the frame rate or if it doesn't look perfectly, so you have to stand up and do another cook. I think I like this metaphor a lot, and it fits you because it's really nutritive to do this.
Well, I can say that I can give you 5 Michelin stars, and you are an excellent chef in that case.
The metaphor
is beautiful. And so, with one piece that I wanted to ask you, and then I'm going to start with, some questions from the audience. But
sure.
I noticed that, some of the murals that you were doing before, the message was kind of really clear in the sense that it's very straightforward. So there was, you can kind of tell, what issues that you're tackling, what social phenomenon that you're trying to tell. But with the pieces now that you're mixing with, or you're experimenting with, or you're cooking, or you're serving, is more abstract. Especially with this piece that I'm showing on the screen right now, concrete branches. What was the meaning behind that? If that was, sourced from a philosophical book, or how did that come to mind? And what is the message?
Yeah, you mean in the concrete branches? You said. Yeah, but it's fun because the other day, speaking with a friend, he told me the same. He told me, it's good because you are turning more abstract and so on. And I understand that people think that, but I don't think so because it's always figurative. It's a building, it's a branch, but I like this when people tell me this because for you it's abstract, but it's not. It's a concrete, it's a building. It's really poetry. I saw this place. It was a really old church. they empty all, so no icons, no crosses, and this window behind the, how you say, where the priest gives the speech, I don't know the word.
Altar, right? It's where the altar? It's where the.
But okay, it's the same. Okay, where the altar. So behind the altar there was this, and they cover it with concrete. And for me, it was really metaphoric, because in the concrete there was a really big scratch about to break, and the scratch seems to be a root of a plant. So I think, okay, this is nice, because for me was a visual poetry, because it doesn't matter the religion, the icons, the buildings, the concrete, because even the concrete has the form of nature. So I was thinking, this in 100 years or 300 years, this place won't exist and nature will be over it. So I go outside, I look for a tree, I record some branches, and then I put in inverted way, and then fit into this concrete place. And this is the final piece. But I don't really see it as an abstract work, but I love it that people understand like this, because if it's abstract, it's nothing clear. You have to dig on it. Maybe I shouldn't have explained it, but because I hate to explain my work. I used to say that if my works doesn't talk about themselves, I failed. But I love to talk too, so I have a problem.
It's hard to find that. It's a double-edged sword, isn't it? It's. I mean,
so this is the reason I write a lot. So I write a lot to for some part of my brain, and then I do gifts for explain these things that I can't explain with words. So it's a perfect a book. It's perfect.
I see. And I mean, from artists, they want, it to be completely straightforward, and, you see it and you know what you're getting. But with yours, I guess, because you have that psychological element to it as well. So, which is very interesting, because, this makes you think, And when I saw this piece too, when Hunter, recommended you, and I saw your pieces actually before even, and I was just looking at your work and I was like, what is this artist trying to tell, And I was just, and now hearing the story, it makes so much sense, and it's beautiful, and there's so much context to it. And I guess what an artist is just seeing things in a different light, right? And it just depends how you express that or how you show that. And I think it was done beautifully here.
Yeah, and this is the reason I will want to thank you for this opportunity, because I am really aware that when I speak my work and people hear me, they understand better what I'm doing. But I think it's not my work. I mean, my work is on the pieces, and to speak is more in text. But so thanks a lot for this opportunity.
Oh, no problem at all. It's an absolute pleasure. Would you see yourself kind of like an instrument to send a message? So kind of like the idea is already there. It's there, but you're just the instrument or the vessel to kind of move that message along.
I think so. I think when you write poetry, you hack the language, so you have new ideas. So one day I was thinking that we don't have ideas; ideas have us. So I tried to do that. I used to do that personification of still things. Mm. So I think about ideas, about people that are flying on the sky and blah, blah, blah. So when the more you read and the more you understand things and the more you go deeper in philosophy and sociology, even neurology, the more ideas of this one that are flying around go into your brain. And this is a point I like to say, because this is the reason I don't use social networks too, because there are time. You have to invest time in that. So if you spend your time in social networks, it's good, but until a certain point, because there is a point that you are filling your imagination with other people's imagination, and when you don't expose to this ecosystem, you have your own ideas. I can say, but your ideas are never ours. But these kind of ideas approach you, and for sure, when it was the boom of Instagram and this kind of social networks, I was going crazy, because I was at home watching all this movement. and I think, well, I must join this because people is stealing my work and putting inside Instagram and inside Facebook, and I shut up. But I was Zen mode. I relaxed myself and okay, let this boat go, and let's understand how this is working. So I think it's finally in time. The point I think maybe I lost the first question.
No, I think that's the beauty of this conversation, right? It's just, it can go wherever you want to go. And I'm actually really glad that you brought up the point of social media, because I agree that, it's the ideas that make us. It's not us that have the ideas. And it's funny because it's kind of that, social media and the internet and everything is so compact and there's so much of it that your senses kind of get desensitized. And it's kind of like, why are you consuming so much of other people's content and you're not consuming your own content, because you have so much there that you can explore, but people aren't doing that because there's so much going on their screens as is.
Yeah, no, I understand that people, even me, we see that, but my metaphor is like being in the side of the river. The river is the internet, and the river is doing a lot of noise, and you have to be in your seat watching this river, but try not to focus on your own mind, because the river is beauty. We see a lot of work. It's happened to me these days since I am Twitter, because I'm new in social, and I am seeing a lot of brutal work of people doing incredible pieces, and I am human, and I sometimes think, oh wow, this is fucking brutal, I can never approve that. And what I do exactly in this moment, I close Twitter and I go to Photoshop, and this is my motivation. Oh, this guy is nice, okay, I have to do that. And thank you for this, because I now I remember what I was about to say about social network, internet, and art. And I used to talk about a concept I invent because I feel comfortable with it. Is the amniotic culture. It's like all this culture is around us that we don't really want, but we know. We all know the Gangnam Style, for example. I never listened this song by myself, but I know what it is. I know what is the McDonald's symbol. It's like amniotic culture. It's like when you're born, you are surrounded by a lot of logotypes, a lot of music, a lot of. So I don't have TV at home, but if you have a TV at home, you are eating TV all day, and then internet, and then. So there is a point that your brain normalize that, and as I never was in social network, for me, it's not normal to see that. So when I exposed to some social network, I suddenly step back to keep on my work. So it's something that we have to be aware, because it's really new. For people, if I have to do 1 minute, I will explain a little thing, and I shut up because I think it's okay. Can I, Annissa?
Yes.
It's just a little metaphor that we have to have in mind, that nowadays we are living 4 kinds of humans in planet. I mean, your grandparent has a really similar life to your grandparent. Your grandparent really similar life to your parents. Not as much, but now your parents, your life parents has nothing to do with your life. About how you develop as a teenage, a technology, and blah, blah, and your sons will not have your life at all. So we are now, there is the old people that is trying to understand the new world, that are our parents, our grandparents. Then there is our generation. I am from the 87, so I grew up with no internet, and in my 20s I got the internet. So there is this generation that we have one feet in analogic world and the other feet in the digital one. And then there is the new generations that they are digital native. So they don't know what was the world before. And looking from a human perspective from thousands of years ago, this never happened. For example, when fire was discovered, there was thousands of centuries to understand it. Then appeared the print, and there was thousands of years to understand. And then the evolution was slowly. But with internet, all the evolution we are doing in these last 20 years are a lot of more times than all the rest of history. So this is a lot of information and social networks and blah, blah, blah. And this, of course, repercuting in art, because art is a product of their time. I think it's good to stay away a little, to have more peace in mind, to reorganize our ideas and where we're going. But it's my personal point of view. Nothing important. It was for me.
I think I agree with you with the whole social media, and I admire you for being able to do that as well, because I tried doing that, and to say the least, I failed.
Yeah, no, but
But
I respect a lot that people. The problem is that it seems that people. It's hard to believe that for people that I don't use. I respect that people use, but when I say that I don't use, people is, oh, come on, why you are a hater? Well, no, I am peace like this. But I respect and I understand it, even more if you're an artist. Of course, you need to have it. I choose the hard way, but and from the beginning when I began in Tumblr it was a way for me to know if my work transcends. If I put in Tumblr, and here comes a concept I think about inventing street art, in web street art, is the digital wins. If I place good work in Tumblr, the digital wins will make fly away. So people took it and they place in their Facebook, and his friend put in blah, blah, blah. So your work is genuinely spread. It's not me in Instagram saying, oh, spread my work, retweet, and I give blah, blah, blah. I respect people do that a lot. I don't do it, yes, but I respect. So I prefer the hard way. It's more productive for me. I don't know. It's a point of view. As hundreds of more, I respect a lot of every people.
which I think is tough, right? Because, with the new age or this new generation moving more towards this whole digitalized or this virtual economy, so to say, it's tough not being on social media and things like that, because you kind of have to promote yourself and yada yada yada, and so it's creating a brand for yourself, and so much of it is done online now. So it's tough. I can understand, trying to find that fine balance, making sure that you're not over consuming too much to where you lose some of your ideas. And which brings me to one of my next questions that from the audience asked. Boone asked, have you ever suffered from imposter syndrome? If so, how did you overcome it? I'm dealing with that right now. So imposter syndrome is defined as a collection of feelings of inadequacy that persist despite evident success. So I guess it would kind of, mean if you're kind of, how do I say this? If you're taking inspiration from other artists and you're trying to compare in this space, especially because it's so competitive, how do you overcome that? Or how do you be at peace, would be the question.
Yeah, but I how can I explain it? I am okay with what I am doing, and I was doing this for a lot of years. And bad things happen to me about people stole my work and blah blah. I know what I'm doing, but sometimes and of course when I focus on artists, I steal or I took ideas from. But I always say, when I do some works about some other people's works, I say, oh, this reference is from this blah blah. But I don't know what you mean exactly with impostor syndrome. I am checking here in my other computer to know.
I had too, but it basically just means, self-doubt and having a sense of intellectual fraudulence. So it's kind of you're basically, taking inspiration, like it's not your work because you're taking inspiration from people.
Okay, no, I am reading now. Not at all. Of course, I been discovered as a fraud and not able to internalize. No, not at all. I am really in peace with myself and my own conscience. I know what I'm doing. When I never steal nothing. I mean, when I want to work with some artists, I explain everything what I'm doing, and sometimes they don't like what I was proposing to them. I no problem, but I don't know. I read now here. Impostor. Yeah, no. This happened to me. What is Rune saying? That you are not as good as others, so you don't produce. This happened to me for a year with gifts, but I was doing other things, so it was really productive. I was writing and doing a lot of music. But yes, it happened because I was working with big people in street art, and I was working a lot of time with them, and finally it doesn't work because at first I think it was my fault, but then I meet more people, I understand that it wasn't the fault, and then I come back. But yes, this happened to me just one time. I think I learned it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, some people say like it hinders progress, but I guess you just have to do it. It's something that I feel most artists deal with, and it's just part of the process, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and one point in my life, I mean, despite I am photographer and digital artist, my best friends and my close friends are almost strictly analogical. So I don't have a photographer friend or a motion designer friend to speak about this, because I work with street art, that's analogic, and my work is digital. So for them, sometimes I am a tool. They told me more than once that no, make you do this because you do automatic. And I think, oh, come on, this is not. And one day I told an artist, you have to understand that as you are a master of painting, you are more, your work is more automatic, because you have it more internalized in yourself, your work, because you were doing this for 10, 20 years. That what I'm doing, because there is not even tutorial to understand. I have to struggle with it. So analogic people that never use computer, they think that as it is a computer, it is automatic. And it's not like this. The computer is just a tool, as it is a brush. The brush is a tool to achieve your piece. I use computer and Photoshop to achieve my piece. If I need, I don't know, I have a GIF that I do a small snail, and inside I put like a gear, and I didn't have a gear, so I use my fan, the fan that you use when it's hit. I use my fan, I record my fan, and I use it. The computer is a tool, and in this, I like this midpoint between analogic art and digital art, and I am mixing them. But sometimes I must admit that a lot of street artists see your work as something automatic or something blah blah. But this is changing, because a lot of other street artists are focusing in how to mix their street art in the web, because they are understanding that street art is web art too. I never saw a Banksy piece in person, but I know all his work, because street art is not only street art; it's web art. This is what I understood in 2014. I began to do street art again. So this is the midpoint, I think. But yes, okay. Sometimes I have to struggle only with myself and my painters friends that a lot to. They do a lot just hearing me with my crazy stuff.
Right, and I love it, and I also love all the metaphors that we kind of use today. Cooking, and it's a mantra, and I agree with art is a mantra, especially with gifts when it's a loop and it plays on your subconscious mind, essentially. So one question for you is, where do you see your art the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years?
How many? What do you say?
Where would you see your art going? Or which direction is it heading in the next 3 to 5 years?
I don't know, really, because when this is really boiling times. If you ask me this in 2014 when I began with this, I will never say you that 2 months in Miami doing loops for DA Snake. It was crazy. Like, wow, what the fuck is happening here? And this is the same. I am now in Fifth Art. I have account from Makerspace from almost a year, but I didn't use at all, because I think, so I keep doing my street art works and blah, blah, blah. And this summer, I focus on this. It was in August, so I am now almost 3 months in Fifth Art, and everything is changing. And all these ideas I have from these last 3 or 4 years, I can't do it. So I can't say where it's going to be this in 3 years, but I can say that I want to be further. Of course, a lot of things to do. By now, it's not only in my hard drive. That it was I have in my hard drive that is they are boring. So if people is now getting into NFTs and doing exhibitions and this kind of work, is the high point for me. Now has a lot of sense, this ecosystem.
I think that's a perfect answer. I think it's a perfectly reasonable answer with how the world is moving right now, and especially the space. It moves so quick. You never know what's going to happen. There's always, I feel like with art, the people that move society. I always believe that artists are the people who move society. They're the creatives, and a lot of people are kind of, a lot of people only focus on the corporate and the business and the industrial side of it, but it's artists who are the open people who are creative, and they move people forward and the society forward. It's like how in a company, right? You can only, and even in a hierarchical structure, you can only go so far with people who are sticking to the books and only doing what they're told, yada yada yada. Like, but it's a creative people who eventually you'll need them to move things forward or the business forward, right? Because it needs to change.
I totally agree. And don't you see the correlation between art and science? The best ideas in science used to came from reading books about dystopic societies or science fiction or magic or alchemy. And then this technology that these scientists create, we the artists look at it and we have more ideas. So these ideas that we are going to do with these technologic inventions will fit again to the scientists that will it's the perfect book. I think it's everything between arts and science. This is how world works, and for sure artists we always will need artists. Look more these days of down, people maybe is not realizing, but they are all day consuming art, series, films, music. So when somebody told you, you are an artist, you may feel honored to choose this job. I think what a boring world if artist or art doesn't exist. So this is the reason I respect all kind of art. The fact that I don't like some kind of art doesn't not mean that I am against it. It's just like this.
And I understand that as well. Okay, so it's been absolutely amazing having you, and thank you so much for spilling your knowledge with us and on philosophy and psychology and how you create your work. And I think it's been incredibly inspiring for a lot of people. I didn't expect coming into this this stream to kind of learn so much or having so much to get back on like psychology and philosophy mainly, and it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks a lot, Annissa. Thanks.
Of course. But I do want to wrap up with one more question. And it's, what is your single favorite, your most favorite NFT in your collection? If you had to choose one.
Ooh, this is hard.
It is, isn't it? Whoever I ask, it's the toughest question of the whole interview.
I'm trying to think now quickly. And I didn't dig so much on him, but when I think about NFT and this kind of arts and works, these days is coming to my mind Frenetic Void. I don't know if it's in your collection or.
Oh yeah, Frenetic Void. His work is great.
Despite I don't do 3D, but I mean I appreciate a lot 3D. This guy is a brutal image, but from my point of view, because I think what. I think that what is he trying to explain, or sometimes nothing, but he evokes me a lot of poetry, and I think this for me this guy is doing. But there is a lot of them more, but I can remember because it's a lot of people, and I'm new here, and it's like overwhelming, and I can't explain. But for me, Frenetic Void, I am liking a lot of his work. This since I'm here. Sorry for all the artists, because every day discovering on Twitter, I try to give feedback and I try to say, hey, this work, I can't remember names because it's a lot of people. Sorry.
No worries at all. And I, we actually have quite a few pieces of Frenetic Void in the vault. And so, looking through, what we collected, I love his work as well. So I think it's beautiful. So thank you for that. But yeah, that being said, again, thank you so much for coming on. I'm sure that the audience enjoyed this a lot. It's a deep fireside chat, basically, and I loved it.
I enjoyed a lot too. No words to thank you. Huge thank you.
I'm so glad to hear that. But again, thank you everyone for tuning in, wherever you guys are, and stay tuned for our next fireside chat with artists with Blake Catherine. So again, I hope you guys enjoy your day and take care.
Have a nice day, Annissa.
Have a nice
Thank
day.
you for people.
Yeah.
Let's work, Mauro.
Yes.
Goodbye.